Live from the Saxton. It's the Tuesday of the 5th major. I hope you have your rain gear on hand, Deuce. How you doing?
I'm good. It's good to be back on the doorstep of the real British Open.
Well, let's give a preliminary forecast for the 5th major.
I wasn't joking when I said British Open. You flip that on, you'll see for an hour guys are getting blown around. It's raining sideways, and then kind of goes away and comes back and goes away. I think that's what we're going to see for a few days here.
We'll get to the Saxton Odds later in the show, but let's start at what happened to Sawgrass this past weekend. Your overall thoughts, your surprises, your disappointments, and then we'll get to the thoughts on Tiger.
Well, I'm going to go a different route with the surprise. It's not a player. To me, it was the golf course and how it was set up. Last year, played firm and fast. Scores were pretty close to par. I think top 5 was 5 under par. This year the top 5 was 13 under par. So huge difference. I'm not really sure why they did that. Webb Simpson made the place look like the John Deere Classic. And I know he separated a little bit, but still, for the flagship event, on a course that's supposed to be, quote-unquote, diabolical, I was shocked at how easy it played.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday there seemed to be a lot of scores. I mean, Tiger flirted with a really, really low round. I was surprised as well at the way it was set up.
Yeah, just if you scroll the leaderboard, the Sunday scores, Webb's protecting a 7-shot lead, so you can kind of throw his score out. But behind him, 67, 67, 67, 68, 66, 68. I mean, that's opposite of what I thought it was going to be. I thought they would, Thursday they always give the guys a round to, go make some hay. This year they give them 4 rounds to do it. So kind of surprising, and curious to see how they set it up differently next year when it moves to March.
Were you happy with it that way, or do you prefer it the challenging way we've seen it in the past?
I do think there's a place for tournaments that allow scores. You usually get really good leaderboards, and you can't complain with this leaderboard, although it was kind of a snooze fest because Webb ran away with it. So there is a place for that, but when you're talking about these big events, it just seems like none of them are hard ever anymore. That's kind of what the PGA Championship is for, where you let guys go after pins in a major. I don't know. I like to see the players in the U.S. Open play harder than this.
Player-wise, who was a surprise to you?
Webb has clearly figured out the non-anchored putter. That is a little bit surprising in the fact that he's kind of the only one that has figured it out. Usually, you see multiple guys figure out something when a change like that happens, but he seems to be the only one, and he was just lights out. Now, we'll see if it was just a hot week, but the stats for the year are really good, so that kind of tells me the trend is he's got a style that he finally is comfortable with. And, a couple of years ago, he was winning with semi-regularity, once a year, once every other year. So might see him get back to that. The course doesn't fit him, but my biggest disappointment was probably Rory. He had the best aggregate under par score here the last 4 or 5 years. So it seemed like he had figured out a way to play a golf course that doesn't fit his style. Driver's his biggest weapon. He does not use it much here. It seemed like he got impatient this week. Didn't stick to a game plan with driving iron 3-wood off the tee. Tried to force it, and we've kind of seen it from him all year. He makes some big mistakes at really bad times.
We talked about it a little bit after the Masters, but what's your assessment on the state of Rory's game right now?
It's close. He has that ability to still flip that switch. We saw it at the Arnold Palmer where he just blew everyone away that Sunday. But it's kind of a microcosm of his career, right? He's always been that guy that goes on heaters, and then the rest of the year he looks like this. He's that inconsistent will have a 9-hole stretch of terrible golf, and that's how he's been his whole career. So, we like to talk about it, you like to do it, but he's been this way for 10 years now, so it's not a huge surprise.
Your thoughts on Spieth's game right now?
Expectations for him are so high. That one season just almost ruined what should be realistic for him and what's not. His putter's not the same as it was. I don't think it's technique related, or he keeps talking about setup. Sometimes you just don't feel comfortable putting. Sometimes it's mental. You're just not confident that you are going to just knock those inside 10-footers specifically in. And to me, it looks like he's thinking and hoping and wishing a lot on those, 4 to 8 footers, where 3 years ago those were automatic. If you look at his stats, he has turned into one of the better iron players on tour, which he was not 2 or 3 years ago. He was the opposite, and he is 185th in strokes gained putting, which the last 3 years he's been top 5. So for him to even be making cuts is pretty impressive, because he's one of the worst putters on tour. I have a sneaky feeling you'll see him get right very quickly.
Thoughts on Tiger and what his performance was this weekend?
Pretty impressive that he made the cut on the number and got his name involved on the weekend. He almost had his name really involved, but those last 5 holes, he just kind of fell apart both Saturday and Sunday. It looked like almost he got tired. I don't know. To me, the biggest takeaway is he looks healthy. We're seeing him play now, which is great. And, his putter is never going to be what it was back in the day. It's just what happens when you get older. It happens to everybody. So I think people's expectations have to change a little bit. But he looked pretty good to me. He's got that stinger back, which I love watching. I still think he's going to win somewhere at some point this year.
I thought this was the best he's looked since before all the incidents have happened with him.
Interesting.
Not just the way he swung, just his demeanor, the way he walked around. It felt like he seems really confident in his game right now.
I think he's close to something. Now, I'm not saying he's winning majors, but I think he can win a tournament like the Memorial, or if he can somehow get into Bridgestone, the WGC. I think somewhere where he's comfortable, I don't see a reason why he couldn't win.
I'm not sure it's a U.S. Open. I think you may have to take that one out of the equation, but this is the first week that I felt like he could win a major again.
I'm actually very surprised when people are ranking, obviously the Masters, his record there is so good, but his record at Augusta since 06, when they made those changes, or 05, is not, he's at top 10, but it's not impeccable like it was. So I don't think that course fits him like it used to early in the 2000s. I'm shocked people don't think he can win a British. If he gets that stinger going, the 3-wood, the 2-iron, his short game looks phenomenal, specifically his chipping. His chipping looks vintage.
Yeah, the more confident he gets with the 3-wood and stinger, as you just mentioned, the more likely he is to win, where he doesn't have to hit as many drivers.
I agree. And I don't see why he couldn't do that at the British.
No, I agree, especially if you get lucky with the draw and the weather.
Exactly. And he's still one of the more creative players out there. All the young guys just hit as far as they can, hit as high as they can. He still can work it both ways, it seems like. High, low, medium.
What will you be looking at, watching for, leading up to the Memorial?
Yeah, so he won't tee it up until Memorial. That's 2 weeks from now. Tour will be in Texas. Byron Nelson this week at a new course, Trinity Forest. It will look unlike anything golf fans have seen the tour play on. It's basically a links course without the ocean, and I mean traditional links. You will not see a tree on the property. You'll see tons of humps and bumps and balls rolling off greens. So totally new course, core Crenshaw design, supposed to be fantastic. There are already complaints from players that they need to water it because it's too hard. So this looks like it could be a fun week. And then Colonial next week, another great course. And then we get to Memorial. So, fields will be okay at Colonial. Field this week's kind of weak. But Memorial, guys will start playing again, getting ready for the U.S. Open.
If they stay at Trinity Forest, could you see the tour or the players pushing to move this to the week before the British, where a lot of guys have traditionally gone over and played the Scottish or somewhere on the Euro Tour the week before? If this is going to be similar to a British Open setup, could you see them pushing to move it to the week prior?
That's an interesting question.
To get a better field?
Yeah, especially since more players live in that area than do, John Deere Classic. It would be interesting because I think, while not a huge event, John Deere is very popular sponsor-wise, and that tournament's pretty popular. They would have to do some massaging, I think, with that sponsor specifically.
Before we get off the topic of golf, I'm sure not many people have had the luxury to play Burning Tree. The podcast may get shut down if we talk about it too much, but your review of your round at Burning Tree.
Yeah, no cell phones, no pictures, none of that. I was lucky enough to play the Sunday. Quintessential early 1900s club. The clubhouse locker room is one of the coolest places I've ever been in. Just dripping with history, exactly what you would think. Wood on the walls and the ceilings with beams, big leather chairs and flat screens, poker tables everywhere. The course is immaculate. Greens front or back to front, sloping everywhere. Pretty small, firm, fast. Not a blade of grass out of place, really. Just one of those places where you could be a member and die happily playing it every single day. I liken it to a daycare for old men.
How many women did you see around?
Not a single one. Not working, not on the driveway, nowhere.
Sounds like a great Sunday.
It was a different atmosphere, that's for sure. Play fast.
Any other PGA or golf notes? We'll get to the Saxton later, but any others from your point of view?
Justin Thomas, new number one in the world. Just piece of news there.
Any leans or stayaways or predictions for the Byron this week?
His odds are pretty short, so it's probably not worth a straight-up bet. You might want to parlay it with a Warriors bet or something like that, but I have a sneaky feeling Spieth's going to win this week. If you want some darts, maybe a Jimmy Walker, Bo Hostler.
I like the Hostler call.
Yeah, he practices out of Trinity Forest, so I think local knowledge. Spieth also is a kind of a out-of-town member here, so both those guys have some local knowledge.
Good stuff. Let's move to the association. Let's start with what's currently happening, and then we'll go back to round two.
Sure.
Your thoughts on the game ones that we've seen so far. Let's start in the West with that being most recent.
A lot of lead up to this. It's great. Should be a great series on paper, but game one to me was exactly what me and you have been thinking, I think, for the last 3 or 4 months. Rockets look great in the regular season. They look pretty good against the Jazz, but they run into a team like the Warriors that likes to play that same speed, and they got run out of the gym last night. Golden State looks so focused. I have not seen them like that since last year at some point. Durant, from the tip, looked like, I don't know, I've never seen him like that. Just no smiles from Steph, which you usually see him kind of wiggling around. Clay was serious. Draymond obviously is always a thorn, and he was his usual self, but they just came out with an intensity and a focus, and Houston is kind of who I thought they were. They might steal game 2 just because, it's at home and they can shoot, but they got exposed last night as a one-man band.
texted you last night in the third quarter saying that this series is not going more than 5. As you mentioned with Durant, it seems like Golden State can get a mismatch with Durant anytime they want. And last night, a couple times, he had Chris Paul on him, and he just went to work.
I was very interested to see how Houston was going to defend. And you're right. Especially the second quarter, they put Paul on Durant almost exclusively, and he just shot over top of them. I think he scored 15 in the third. I was shocked that they kept that strategy. I almost thought he should have just put Capella on him. At least he can disrupt his shot a little bit. He might get blown by a couple times, but I'd rather him, at least contest a jump shot. He was just shooting right over Chris Paul.
Yeah, I think Houston plays one style, and unfortunately for Houston, it's the same style that Golden State likes to play. And Houston cannot go any other way as far as playing differently. It's too much ISO. It's too much on Harden pounding the ball into the ground.
Yep.
And we may see Paul have a big game like he did against Utah, but there's too much pressure on him to perform in this series, and he doesn't have any good matchups that he can exploit.
No, the refs aren't going to give him every single call like they did against players they don't even know on Utah. And I would love some nerd out there to go back and watch and count the number of dribbles Houston had versus the number of dribbles Golden State had. I bet it's 5 times as many.
Once in a while, you see an on-ball pick and roll with Houston, but other than that, it's Harden or Paul trying to create and kick. You're not beating a good team in the NBA like that, especially a good defensive team.
Yeah, where's the genius of Mike D'Antoni's offense? It's a mystery to me because I didn't see anything.
And then the other thing that is so noticeably different, especially when it gets to these rounds in the playoffs, is Golden State's depth.
Oh, yeah. I thought Sean Livingston played great last night.
He was great. Looney was great. Houston just doesn't have anybody that come off the bench and give them a huge impact like Golden State can.
I think we talked about this maybe in December. When Eric Gordon is one of your guys you need to score, you're not going to win anything significant. He's the good shooter label is baffling to me. He can't hit the side of a bar.
He missed some shots last night that were third grade shots. The way that they missed.
Like he one hand threw the ball off the basket a couple times.
Yeah. If this goes more than 5, I'll be shocked.
PJ Tucker looked out of his league. Ryan Anderson hasn't played, so he looked like he had zero rhythm. It was a complete mismatch.
Harden had a good game last night when you look at his stats, but they still lost by 13.
I thought, 13 was generous too. They were down 20.
Yep.
Klay Thompson, another mismatch whenever they had Durant. They tried to double Durant a couple times in the third quarter, and Klay Thompson was wide open, which makes no sense to me. They can't do anything. Draymond and Steph didn't really do anything last night.
I don't see anything Houston can do in order to make Golden State uncomfortable. Do you see anything?
Well, I was thinking about this. You can't double, right? Especially when that lineup's on the floor. With all 4 of them on the floor, you can't double anyone. And I'm not sure they have a guy. I guess I would try sticking Capella on Durant and see what happens. I'm not sure what else you can really do.
If you're going to take anybody away on Golden State, who is it? Durant?
Yeah, the problem is, I would stick Paul on Steph and Capella on Durant and see what happens. See if PJ Tucker can, Klay is not going to beat you a ton off the dribble. Tucker's a good defender. They match up size-wise, so I would think maybe he can limit him a little bit. So it's really, to me, Paul has to be able to defend Steph.
I was a little surprised that D'Antoni didn't make the switch just to give that look last night more often.
Yeah.
I do think.
They've done with Paul and Durant for a while, and they kind of had Capella helping, but Durant's going to shoot over him from 25 feet every time.
Yeah, I think you try and stop Durant and hope that Curry and Thompson don't kill you from the perimeter.
You might as well try anything at this point.
Yeah.
try leaving Draymond Green just open, no one covering him.
We didn't see a ton on the East side with Boston and Cleveland in Game 1. How do you see that playing out?
I'm in the minority here because I think Boston is better than people think. I know everyone loves Stevens, but I think their players are actually better than people think. And I did not like this matchup for Cleveland. Cleveland was a mirage last series. They always kill the Raptors. The Raptors are terrible on defense. They never guard the three well. And I'm not a believer in Cleveland shooting the three well, but when guys are wide open, they're going to, it's the NBA, they're going to make some shots. But I think you actually saw what Cleveland is more so. Not LeBron. LeBron had a bad game. Before 26 from three, Boston was closing out. They weren't giving Kevin Love and J.R. Smith open looks. Honestly, who's going to beat you on that team besides LeBron?
They need a huge series from Tristan Thompson to contain Horford. Horford, I think, has been the difference in the playoffs for Boston.
He's been great.
He's been
really, really good.
He's able to guard multiple positions, and he's just so smart when he gets the basketball.
He's also shooting like 80% in the playoffs, which is insane.
The bigger surprise to me is the impact Jason Tatum has had. I did not see it coming.
He's been very efficient. He had another pretty good game. I thought Marcus Morris had a really good game. I can't stand the guy, but I thought he had a really good game, game 1.
Oh, he was great. Going back to your point on Cleveland's shooting, I saw a stat that they had 22 open, uncontested jumpers, and I believe they made 3 of them.
I mean, that's never going to win, really. Boston, they shot okay. I don't think they shot lights out, especially from 3. 36 from 3, so that's not terrible. That's not lights out. Cleveland shot 36% total, 15% from 3. Korver was great against Toronto. He had 5 points, game 1. Kevin Love was great against Toronto. He shot 5 of 14, game 1. J.R. Smith was great against Toronto. He went 2 for 9, game 1. So, I'm going to win if those guys continue to do that. I don't care if LeBron scores 70 a game.
I didn't love the matchup offensively for Cleveland. I thought they would be better defensively. I thought they'd be more athletic than Philly, especially on the perimeter. But Stevens just exploits the weakness in mismatches and makes you uncomfortable guarding them. And I think after seeing some of the shooters on Philly really struggle, they do close out so well on the three-pointer. And I think they just make you rush. You work so hard to get open that when you do finally get open, you're just so rushed and exhausted from getting open that it's tough to make open jumpers against Boston.
I think he didn't have a good series in totality, but I think the presence of Embiid is far more significant than the presence of Tristan Thompson. I thought Boston got a lot of easy buckets near the rim in game 1. Just the no threat of the. I mean, he can block shots, but he's 6'11". He's not 7'2" with a 47-foot wingspan. It looked to me like Boston was not afraid to go in there.
No, I would agree. I think if I'm Cleveland, I let Rozier. I don't want him to go off, but I kind of let him get his, and I let Jaylen Brown do his thing. I try and contain Tatum and the role players.
This is why I like them. They have 5 guys that can legitimately score 20 points. I know Scary Terry is not high on your list after the last series, but he can score 20. Marcus Morris can score 20. Horford can score 20. Tatum and Brown can score 20. I guess Smart can even score 20. So there's a bunch of guys. They can all shoot, too, which is why they're hard to guard, I think. They're not the Warriors, but when you have multiple guys that have size and can shoot, I think it's really hard to play defense against. That's what goes without saying.
It almost seemed to me that LeBron was I don't want to say uninterested, but trying to get a feel for what Boston was doing in Game 1.
Yeah.
And I expect to see a different LeBron. I expect to see a different strategy and plan from Cleveland tonight. But if it doesn't work, I don't see them winning this series. They may win. They may win the games in Cleveland, but in the long haul, they're not. Even if it gets to 7, they're not beating Boston in 7.
I agree. I agree with your statement about LeBron. He always takes one or two passes. He is passive and tries to get his teammates going. Because we saw it against Toronto. When they get going, life's so much easier for him to operate. He either does that or he, right from the tip, just goes for your throat. And it looked like he tried to continue JR, Love, Korver. He tried to keep them going from the last series. And I think you could tell pretty early on they were not going to get it going. And like you said, after that, I don't know if he checked out, but I think he kind of reserved some energy for Game 2, we'll say.
It is an advantage if Cleveland could steal tonight's game. They don't play again until Saturday, so LeBron's going to be able to get rest again.
Yeah, yes.
The last I saw, Cleveland was a 1-point underdog. I don't understand what Vegas doesn't like about this Boston team, but it seems there seems to be value on them every night.
I know. So I thought they were the same last series too, which we'll talk about. But it's one of those things. I think in the NBA, Vegas has 4 or 5 teams that they like and that they've trusted in the past, and they can't get off of them.
It's just surprising to me with what Boston has, how good they defend the 3, which the NBA has become a 3-point league, how well how athletic they are, and the coach they have, that Vegas just doesn't seem to give them any credit.
I know. This situation might be a little different than the past couple of weeks just because, here you're kind of expecting the public maybe to jump on Boston after the dominant Game 1, expecting that bounce back from LeBron, but still, zero respect.
I am seeing a series odds of the Cavs still -120, the Celtics are even.
I mean, I like the Celtics at +240, so I'll take them at even still.
And the Warriors have now jumped to -575, Rockets +430.
Holy moly. That tells you all you need to know about that series.
We tried to warn everybody.
Wow.
The Rockets
no thanks.
open as a 1.5-point favorite in Game 2. If they're going to win a game, it's going to be Game 2.
I would agree. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that still, though.
No, especially as you mentioned, Curry did not have a great game in Game 1. Draymond didn't play that well. Durant really carried them. Clay had a pretty good fourth.
They looked like they were out for blood to me. I think they might try to just hammer Houston.
I agree.
I agree with you. This is a game. If you had to bet, you were itching and wanted Houston. This is the game. But I'm gonna pass.
Back to round 2. We touched a little bit on Toronto. Your thoughts on that series and what Toronto does from here?
Boy, what a disappointment. I think this is one of those things in the NBA where you can be deep, and they have, they had a regular season rotation of nine guys, I think, that were pretty good. But we see it every year. You have to cut down the playoffs somewhat. I don't know if it's in their head with LeBron, but they let him get to his spots, and when you get to his spot, you're done. He's either going to make the right pass or he's going to score. And I just don't think they have anyone to guard him, and I'm not sure they have the strategy to defend him as a team. To me, it's kind of at the point where you have to say it's mental with some of the players, because DeRozan had a phenomenal year again, and he got benched for the last 10 minutes of one of the games. Yeah, obviously you have to blow it up. And to me, it's obvious. But Lowry and DeRozan are good. To me, they're not stars, though. They should be. Lowry's probably a third option. DeRozan needs to be a second option. And he's a scorer. He doesn't make anyone better. He's average at best on defense. You can't have your best player be that. He's, poor man's mid-2000s Carmelo Anthony.
I think that's a pretty good comparison. I think you hit it right on the head that they had nobody to guard LeBron. They had 9 guys who could play, but none of them could at least present any challenge to LeBron. And with that being said, I have no clue why Dwayne Casey did not run 2 guys at LeBron, similar to what Cleveland did to Oladipo. Now, granted, LeBron's probably going to make the smart play, but I'd rather some other guy on Cleveland have to make shots to beat me.
It was a bizarre coaching series from Toronto's standpoint. I like Dwayne Casey. He's done a really good job in the regular season up there. But, they were helping off of Kyle Korver, doubling Tristan Thompson. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Let Tristan Thompson try to score 20 points. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't leave Kyle Korver open. The one shooter on the floor.
Yeah, I think once they lost Game 1 in the fashion they lost Game 1, that was the series.
Yeah, I agree. I think, they were going in with this fresh mindset. It's not mental. We're going to get over this hurdle. And then just the way Game 1 happened, I think it just popped their balloon big time. Like, oh shit, it's happening again.
More likely to be moved, DeRozan or Lowry?
I think they would rather keep DeRozan. I think contractually, DeRozan is easier to move, though, and he's younger.
Does he fetch you back enough to move him?
Boy, I have a weird feeling that they might stay put and go at it again with a new coach.
Interesting.
I think they're a little bit fearful. If they move DeRozan, right, I don't know what you get back for him. I'm not sure they're confident that they can put together a team that will be good in the next 10 years if they move that. I think they're okay being really good really good regular season team, make the playoffs, rather than try to rebuild risking an absolute debacle.
Interesting.
I just have a weird feeling. I'm not sure. I know their GM has been great. That's a big risk if you move him. You could be, Lowry doesn't have a great history of health. He's 32. And other than that, Valanciunas is, he's just a guy. Everyone else on that team is just a guy. So you'd be risking a lot, I think, unless you got something back that plays now.
So they need a wing, and I heard this trade, or I read about the proposal. Who says no? If they offered DeRozan to the Lakers for Ingram and somebody else just to match the salary.
I think the Lakers might.
Interesting.
I read another one. DeRozan for Wiggins and something.
Can Butler and DeRozan coexist together?
Yeah, that's the question.
I do think Minnesota has.
I would say yes, just because he hates Andrew Wiggins.
I think Minnesota has to move on from Wiggins.
I mean, he's so young that he's got to. I know his contract's terrible, but moving forward, he's got to be still valuable somewhat, especially in a deal like that where the other team might be sniffing around moving. I actually think I like that deal from Minnesota's standpoint a lot.
Your thoughts on the other series in the East, Sixers, Celtics, and where the Sixers go?
I'll let you handle this one for the most part, but to me, Simmons wasn't ready for this, and Stevens is so smart. He exposed his weakness pretty quickly, pretty early on in the series, and I think it's hard, especially for a young team, it's hard to play 4-on-5 on the offensive end, and 4-on-5 is generous because the two Euros they brought in had pretty bad series overall. I thought Boston was way more athletic, had way more depth. match was pretty obvious. Embiid, to me, he's really good. I actually think I might be outlandish here, but I would move him and try to get something back because I think it's hard to win with him. Ball stops. He's awesome on defense, but the ball stops and the game slows down. He thinks he's Kevin Durant, but he's not. I don't know what he is yet. He's really good, but I think it's hard to play with him if you're another star.
Your thoughts on Brett Brown?
I actually thought Brett Brown had a good series. There's probably every series there's mistakes. It's hard to the Simmons McConnell thing is hard to question because you're not that's got you to the playoffs essentially. Hard to pull that trigger quicker. I thought he was really good in some situations. I think he was a little bit stubborn to make changes quicker, but first playoff series, first real playoff series, it's kind of hard to question that.
Yeah, I think of all the things I've gone back and forth on and thought about over the series, it's Brett Brown, whether he did a good job or not. And I guess since I keep going back and forth, I guess he did an average job.
Yeah, that's fair.
His adjustments, he was late too. I'm still not sure why he did not give Markelle Fultz 3 to 5 minutes just to see if he could make any difference whatsoever. Even if
So
he gave them something.
Do you think that was his decision or from above? Because that's shocking to me that he looked halfway decent the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season and got 0 minutes. To me, that's a little bit smelly on a GM.
He did not look good when they brought him in against Miami. He looked overmatched and not ready to play in the playoffs. I thought that Boston was a better matchup for Fultz, though. Especially, I thought he provided enough athleticism that he could have at least guarded somebody on the perimeter, in which the Sixers got completely exposed. And
especially Bellinelli. I thought that's the kind of the matchup I thought they could have changed with Fultz.
that's exactly where the Sixers really got hurt, was the guys they had to play a lot of minutes got exposed. Bellinelli, finally, Brown sat him down in Game 5 and he only played 11 minutes. Redick got exposed defensively.
Yeah.
And you look at the open look he had in Game 5, I just don't think he had any legs left.
I agree.
He had to work so hard to get open. I see both sides of the Embiid argument you made. I think he just played too many minutes. I think he's a 30-minute max guy, plus the fact that he sat out almost a month. His conditioning was awful. His footwork looked as bad as it ever has in the NBA for him.
Yep.
I think he's got to get better conditioned in the offseason.
I didn't like his. I don't know if Brown can even tell him what to do. He's a superstar. I just hated the way he played when he was killing Boston inside, and then he goes away from it.
I agree.
Bothers the shit out of me. Because he wants to shoot threes. He wants to be that guy.
I think they had to work so hard offensively to score, which is why I give Brown credit for some of the plays and some of the designs he had to get guys open and get guys the ball. You look at Boston, when they needed a bucket, they gave it to Tatum or got a mismatch somewhere else. Philly, who are you giving the ball to? Embiid was getting the ball so far away from the basket, even when he was posting up. Took him 10 dribbles to get to the spot he wanted to get to. He or the Sixers need somebody to go look at a big man on tape. I remember watching Shaq. They would set the cross screen action on the block and get him a ball, or start him at the foul line, set a back screen, and he'd get the ball on the block. Embiid's catching the ball 15 feet away, and it's all right. ISO, go to work. And Baines and Horford did a decent job on him.
I agree. Horford was a thorn in his side that whole series.
Horford had a great series. Tatum had a great series. But if you told me at the beginning of the series you're going to let Marcus Smart and Aaron Baines shoot, I'm signing up for it, and they hit shots.
Yeah, that's the thing. Boston's role players stepped up. Phillies did not. That was kind of the whole series.
I think it's clear that the Sixers were certainly exposed, certainly had deficiencies, but you look back on the series, and this speaks to Boston taking advantage of crunch time and the job that Brad Stevens did. Sixers blow a 22-point lead in Game 2. They had a 5-point lead in overtime of Game 3, also a 4-point lead at the end of regulation of Game 3, and had a 4-point lead with a minute to go in Game 5. They just blew leads for all the deficiencies and ways they were exposed. That's the part that I scratched my head at when Boston's certainly the better team, but you had leads and you blew them.
What is your take on Ben Simmons?
He's got to get better. I think he seems to have the attitude that wants to get better. When he does shoot, his form doesn't look broken. It definitely looks like it needs some adjustment, but I think it's more mental than anything. He has no go-to move.
No.
If he had at least
move is a bull.
Yeah.
Bowling his way to the basket.
If he at least had a go-to move in the post, you could have lived with him in the series. But and it's tough to sit him down, but that's almost what needed to happen.
Yeah, I almost think all the talk has kind of, where you said it's in his head, I think he has basically learned or been taught that he can't shoot.
Yeah.
He's almost buying into that.
Yep.
Kind of weird.
It was clear, though,
It doesn't look terrible. I mean, I've read all the things about shooting with the wrong hand and all that. He just needs to get that. Even just a foul line jump shot would be huge progress.
It was clear what they drafted Fultz to be was what they needed in this series.
Yeah. I already can't wait to see next season what he is. I'm so curious.
It seems like they're going to be all in to get LeBron or Paul George. If they don't, would you be willing to give up Fultz and Šarić for Kawhi? I'm sure they may have to throw some other things in, but would you be willing to part with them, knowing Kawhi only has 1 year on the deal?
Oh, not if it's not. No, I would not do that if it was not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Has your opinion on LeBron changed any after watching this series?
I know LeBron can help the team, but I thought it would hinder Ben Simmons. I think it actually enhances Ben. He needs somebody like LeBron who went through similar struggles. His shot was probably a little bit better than Ben's coming out, but he went through similar struggles when he came into the league. I think having LeBron around actually helps him more than it hurts that he made play with the ball out of his hands.
Totally agree.
I think either one of them, LeBron or Paul George, fits perfectly. If I had a bet, I don't see either one of them signing with the Sixers, though.
Yeah, that was my next question. What is the probability they get one of those three guys?
I think if Boston wins this series in 5, it's more likely LeBron leaves Cleveland. But I don't know if he comes to Philly.
I don't know if he goes anywhere. I'm still in the camp he probably stays in Cleveland. They move Love for something and they draft somebody, or they move that pick for something else, something like that. I think there is a small chance he goes to Philly just because I think he sees the potential there. And people act like, when they talk about the Simmons-LeBron, they act like LeBron can't shoot at all. Like it's going to be two guys on the court that can't shoot.
Yeah.
It's just, the ball will be out of Simmons' hands more. But I think LeBron could set him up to score much easier than he gets shots now. I
agree, and I thought in Game 4 when they won, TJ did do a decent job. Ben got the ball in the paint and near the block a lot more. I'm not quite sure why they went away from it in Game 5. Even with TJ on the floor, it still seemed like Ben was trying to run the offense.
Yep. I would assume he would defer a little more LeBron, which I still think he's so young, and it's not like LeBron's going to play 10 more years. I think in the long run, it's better for him. It's not going to hinder his development.
Yeah, my biggest fear is they strike out on LeBron and Paul George, either overpay for Kawhi or end up overpaying for somebody else. If at worst comes to worst.
Who else is out there? But I hope they don't, like Carmelo or something like that, where they think, oh, here's a pick and pop guy. I hope they don't go that route.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like if they strike out on those three, I'd rather see Ben and Embiid grow, see what you have in Fultz, and go from there next offseason when there's a plethora of free agents.
I agree. It's not like you're stuck or something.
Quickly, your thoughts on Utah, what they can do or where they go from here, and New Orleans.
Donovan Mitchell looks like a young Dwayne Wade, but I have no idea where Utah can go. Obviously, it's not a free agent destination. They actually have some guys that'll probably, Derek Favors will probably walk. I doubt they're going to want to pay him. I have no idea what they do. I think they have to make some trades and kind of give up more than they're going to get back and hope that their scouting department is really good. You know, try to pluck some younger guys away that might not be flourishing elsewhere. I have no idea how they get a free agent or big-time name other than, you know, trying to get lucky through trades and hit on young guys that might have some potential that is not being reached elsewhere. I don't know who those guys might be, but they're in a tough spot. Mitchell's awesome, but he has zero help.
Yeah, I hate wishing injury on anybody, but I thought the best scenario for them would have been if Mitchell had a serious knee injury when he got hurt the deciding game, and he was missing part of the year next year, and they were able to get in the lottery.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I don't want to take any of his explosiveness.
Yeah.
But if he could have like a Kawhi injury where he has a fibers and is out for 15 months. And they win 8 games, that's definitely best case scenario.
Yeah. New Orleans.
Yeah, they have to decide what I think the next 18 months is, you know, this off season and next season is the next 12 years of that franchise. What do they do with Boogie? Do they re-sign him or not? You know, the success, I think, might have been, I don't want to say the worst thing for his career because an injury would be, but I think this is pretty bad for Anthony Davis. I think he's going to be stuck here. And I am not sold on this current roster. I know you like Holiday a little more than I do. I would not re-sign Boogie. You know, 7'1" guy coming up, 300 pounds almost, coming off an Achilles does not do anything for me. I don't know. I feel bad for AD because I think he's going to get stuck here and they're going to be a middling team for a while. I think there's a trade to be made for AD, but I don't know what it is. I throw her out once a week, but there's definitely something there that I think the Pelicans can be better. It's crazy to say. I think they can be better the next 10 years without him, with the haul that they can get for him.
Yeah. I agree. I like Holiday if he can play off the ball, but that means you're re-signing Rondo. Is that something you want to do? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem. They all played well the last half of the season, and it's kind of screwing everything up. It's screwing up the blow-up.
Yeah.
You know, I would give Boston a call and see what they are willing to part with. You know, if they're giving you Gordon Hayward, Kyrie, and something else, you got to think about it. If they're going to give you Kyrie in a top pick, I think you have to think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're in a terrible spot now. They're not as bad as Utah. They at least have assets, but maybe call Portland. I'm not sure. There's got to be some sort of deal. I maybe call Portland and see if Boogie will do a sign and trade for McCollum.
Yeah, what happened in this round is exactly what their future looks like if they can't do anything. They're a second round at best purgatory type team.
They are the Washington Wizards, Toronto Raptors.
Any other association notes before we move to the fifth major?
I would like to know who your MVP vote is for.
Yeah, if I had a vote, I'd vote for LeBron, but it's going to be James Harden.
I would agree.
And it's a travesty LeBron is not going to win it this year.
People are tired of him winning stuff, I guess.
It's borderline ridiculous, to be honest. Fifth major. Can't believe it's a year has passed and we're on the horizon.
Yep.
Odds have been set. You tell me if you lean other way or any are out of whack so that Vegas can adjust.
Big adjustment for Vegas this year overall with the handicap system.
Team Deuce, minus 125 to win the whole thing. Team Diff, plus 110.
I think that's fair.
Round one. Bills and the Mechanic, minus a half versus Junior and the Coach.
I think I would lean Bills, Mechanic, getting strokes in the weather. I think the double rain gloves on the Mechanic people are going to be shocked at how good he is.
Child, Tundra Dan, minus 1.5 against Magicus and Dundon.
So I've never seen half that team play, but I know Scotty Magicus does not like to play in the weather. So I'm going to go with the team Dan.
This one may come off the board due to the Diff's attitude, but as of right now, the Diff and Mike D'Antoni are minus 1 over us two.
I really like where we're at. I feel like me and you play well when it's pouring. We've been there 100 times together with bucket hats on. Love the attitude that Diff's showing right now. Big advantage to our side.
Round 2 pairings. Miller and the Diff, minus a half versus the Mechanic and Child.
I would love to just watch this match, especially with strokes. I am actually going to lean again to Ed and Child. I'm not picking against my team in any of these matches if you call a team. I don't care what the line is.
Myself and Tundra Dan, minus 1 against 1896.
Again, 1896 might not finish that match. I hope it's pouring. They'll walk off on the 5th hole. I mean, you guys might win 9 and 8.
Bills and you, minus 1.5 against Mike D'Antoni and Dundon.
Love it again. We might win 9 and 8 too. We'll just flying the ball 300 in the driving rain. It's perfect conditions for me and Bills.
Round 3, Difference and Dundon, minus 1.5 against myself and the Mechanic.
This is a big match for you and the Mechanic. Underdogs. But I think we're going to be 9 and 0 after this round. So obviously I'm going with you and Eddie.
The Molinari brothers, minus 2 against the Bear and the Coach.
Scary matchup, but I think once again we'll only be playing against one guy. So I think we have that one sewed up.
Bills and the Child, minus 1.5 against Mike D'Antoni and Junior.
Junior better bring his driver because I'm not sure he's going to hit that driving iron more than 200 yards with the weather that's in the forecast.
Team Deuce, minus a half after round 1.
Yeah, I think we'll be 3-0 after round 1, 6-0 after round 2, 9-0 after round 3.
Team Diff, minus a half to win round 2 session.
Wow. That's a Boston Celtics embarrassment type of line right there.
Team Deuce, minus 1.5 to win the round 3 session.
I think those are fair. I think, to me, the lines are all weather dependent.
Will we see?
I have a feeling that there could be some pouting.
Will we see a towel on a belt loop? With the weather in the forecast, it's moved from minus 130 yes to minus 160 no plus 130.
What is the line for towel around somebody's head?
Even odds.
I like that one. The bell loop's interesting. I do think you might see one. I don't know if it'll be through a belt loop or just hanging out of someone's pants, though.
Number of times driving home is threatened. Over under set at 8.5.
That's a high number. I think you might hit that on Thursday, though.
Hole in one for the duration of the tournament. No, minus 2,100. Yes,
Oof.
plus 2,400.
What do you think here? Lighthouse, the par threes are not easy. What's rum? Bump, 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 bump. That one's pretty short. There's one short one. I think I would need plus 4,000 to go on yes, though. Because I think lighthouses are not attainable.
Over under Eagles combined 2.5.
Over.
Over under combined birdies 43.5.
43.5.
That would be about almost 4 per guy.
Because there's about 1,000 holes with 12 guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go over.
Cart girl numbers obtained. Over under 1.5.
Under.
Davy Trump versus the Bear wrestling takedown. No, minus 4,000. Yes, plus 7,000.
I think yes is interesting here. If he's attacked while the circulation of the Bear is in doubt, I think a tree could fall.
Interesting. I did not think of that.
There's some timing issues and circulation issues that could be problematic for the Bear.
Will a round start on hole 10? No, minus 160. Yes, plus 120.
I think the nibble on the yes with the weather in the forecast could be worth it. I don't have any insider information, but let's just say they need a couple of holes on 1-9 to dry out. Maybe we do start on 10.
Number of Rangers quarreled with this year is over under 2.5.
I'm going to go over because there's usually a quarrel on the first tee about getting off. And then I think cart path only might be an issue. And then another issue just because we want to play in a 12-some might be an issue.
The Mighty Bucks have been the Saxton team for a couple of years. Will they be replaced with a new team this year? No, minus 175. Yes, plus 190.
Yes, it's going to be the Eagles have sort of replaced it. I think the Green Bay Packers have a chance. I think Des Bryant might sign there while we're all together, and the talk of the Green Bay Packers might be at an all-time high.
Well, perfect segue. Number of times Junior tells us the Packers will win the Super Bowl. 5.5.
over Thursday night.
Number of times.
Cheating though, I can bait him into more.
Number of times Trump asks a random person who the best looking guy in the group is. 6.5.
I think that's a good number, actually.
Number of times that random person says the diff is the best looking guy in the group. 1.5.
Under.
Number of times.
Depends who he asks, but I'm gonna go under.
Number of times the diff convinces that random person to say him. 1.5.
Over.
Number of bars we're thrown out of. The over-under is 0.5.
Over. Well, does one count for all?
Yes.
One person, all person?
Yes.
Over.
Total combined hours slept between the bear and child, 29.5.
That's a tough one. That's a really good number. You put some thought into that.
That would be an average of 4 hours of sleep per night between the both of them, which would be 16. 16 plus 16 is 32.
I'll probably go over, but that's like an average night's sleep for the bear anyway.
The Barron Child combined sleep is -1.5 against Steph Curry's Game 3 points.
Wow. I like Steph Curry's side, actually.
Will there be a morning vomit due to a hangover? No, -140. Yes, +125.
Ooh. I think Eddie was victim last year. Oh man, the weather could be an issue with that. It could induce more. I'm gonna say no though. I think no is probably the side. I think guys are smarter.
The best looking girl we see all week, over under amount 7.5.
I'm gonna go over, and it's gonna be an employee somewhere.
Number of tea times we're late to, -1.5. Or excuse me, over under 1.5.
Over. Thursday and Saturday, morning rounds.
Number of times the difference mentions Tatum or Fultz, 13.5.
I'm gonna go under. I think he's gonna be pissed if anyone even brings up the Sixers.
Number of times Child gets in an argument about Brad Stevens, 4.5.
Oh, way over. Way over.
Individual low round, 73.5.
Wow, that's a really good number. I would have taken the under if we were gonna have nice weather. I'm gonna take the. I'm gonna take the over. I think 74 is the best round.
Two-man Paramooch, low round, 68.5.
Over. I think if you get to 60s, you're gonna get low round of the week.
And the odds as to who cleans up on the dice table. The Mechanic, 3-1. Dundon, 5-1. Mike D'Antoni, 8-1. Child, 12-1. Junior, 25-1. The Field, 15-1.
I'm gonna go with one of the favorites. I'm gonna take the 5-1. I think the newcomer shocks the world in dice.
Any other odds that I missed or you'd like to throw out and we'll get a line on it?
I would like a line, some sort of line for pitch. How much does Majakis lose? Does he lose an article of clothing? Does pitch even get played? Is there a fight over pitch?
The dollar amount Majakis loses pitch, $150 over under.
Total for the week.
For the week.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he stops the bleeding if it gets to that.
Number of quarrels between Majakis and the Diff over pitch, 3.5.
So that would be a great parlay line with, is there a takedown? And I would go the opposite way that I said earlier if it's during pitch, because I would not want to get the Bear fired up over pitch.
Give me a line on if all 5 rounds are played, weather-wise.
Completed or played?
Played.
I'm gonna say plus 125 that all 5 rounds are started on time.
Oh, God.
Guess I'm dusting the umbrella off.
Yeah, I would say minus 130 of a delay at least.
Oh. These odds are going to be changing by the second with weather and alcohol.
Yes, exactly.
Great job by you today. Looking forward to the weekend. It's the reason we have a podcast.
Tip of the cap to you, buddy.
Talk to you and see you soon.